Today is October 18th, 1942. I am sitting on a bale of straw in a railway goods wagon, part of a troop transport. So far as the rattling and shaking allows, I am making the very first entries in my brand new notebook. About 3 hours ago, we boarded this train, we being about 300 freshly trained 18-year-old recruits, along with some Gefreiter, Obergefreiter, and Unteroffiziere. Finally, we have a little time to ourselves. The last 3 days have been extremely hectic. On our way to the front, we were first rushed through preliminary training at the Stalag Center in East Prussia. Yesterday, the commander of the training battalion at Insterburg gave us a rousing speech about our contribution to the operation in Russia. For us, this was a great moment, to have finally graduated and now be considered fully fledged frontline soldiers. The commander's speech made us all feel extremely proud. He had spoken about the German army's far-flung commitments and its many successes, and about the mission that we were about to undertake on behalf of our Führer and our beloved fatherland. We were to accomplish this with all the strength and military prowess we could possibly muster. Our attitude was first-rate, not least because our daily suffering had also ended. The 6 months of training often involved a pretty harsh routine, and as a result, many of us won't forget it in a hurry. But that's now all in the past. We look forward to a new era, a great future. Immediately after the commander's send-off, we exited the Insterburg camp through the main gates and headed straight for the railway station. Our marching songs never sounded as cheerful and confident as they did this sunny autumn morning. The Stalag Troop Training Center is well known to old soldiers as a place where harsh military training is meted out. It now serves as a transit area for replacement troops destined for the front lines. No one knows which front line we are being sent to, as this sort of information is classified. We were loaded into these wagons with 3 days' combat rations. Ever since then, the main question has been, what is our destination? The only person who might know is the Obergefreiter with the Iron Cross Second Class and the wound badge. He's in our carriage, but he's saying nothing and is calmly smoking his pipe. He and a couple of other fellows who also have 1 or 2 chevrons on their sleeves are supposed to have come from a convalescent company. They were assigned as senior occupants of each goods wagon by the transport leader. We take it they are returning to their old units, to which we then might be assigned as replacements. Someone's heard that our unit is an old cavalry division, reformed as a tank division with 2 infantry regiments. The evidence is the yellow piping on our epaulets. Yellow is the traditional color of this former cavalry outfit, which has been in the Stalingrad area for a while. I don't attach any significance to this rumor. We'll wait and see. Of the 16 men in our wagon, only 6 besides me are from our training company. I only know the others by sight. There is Hans Weichert, who is always hungry. Next, there is a tall fellow called Warius, the flank man of the training company. Then there is Cooper, a muscular fellow with fair hair. The 4th man is a quiet, sensible chap called Grommel. Then there is Heinz Kurat, who plays the harmonica. The last man, Otto Wilke, uses every free moment to play cards. Even as I write, he is engrossed in a game with some of the others. I think back to the days I spent in the training camp, where, in spite of the physically demanding work, I did enjoy some good times. I think about our strolls through Insterburg and the time spent at the dance café Tivoli, where you could sometimes get to meet a girl. I admit I was a bit shy on these occasions and even blushed in front of girls, but I used to explain this away by using various slick excuses. I had no close friends at the time. I suppose I was a bit selective. October 19th. It's Sunday, but you'd never know it. It was a bit fresh during the night, but now, since sunrise, it has got warmer in here. Outside, the countryside is drifting past us. It looks a poor sort of area. Everywhere you look, you see wooden houses and dilapidation. We pass through some little villages, and you can see farm buildings with thatched roofs and broken-down brick buildings in many places. There are some people at the next station, standing on the rails and on the platforms. Amongst them are some Wehrmacht uniforms. They look like guards. Some of us wave from the wagon, but no one waves back. Our train is moving very slowly, and the figures in front are staring at us. There are a lot of women among them. They have headscarves on. while the men all have peaked caps. They must be Poles. They look very downcast. They have shovels and picks for working on the railway line. At some of the main stops, we're given hot coffee and occasionally fresh sausage. We are slowly getting tired of canned meat. We also find time to wash and freshen up a bit. We don't know exactly where we are, but last night we're supposed to have crossed into Russia. In the early hours of the morning, we suddenly hear rifle shots coming from the front of the train. The train stops, and an alert is sounded. Partisans are supposed to be around here somewhere. They get quite interested in goods trains, but everything remains calm. October 23rd. Day after day, the wide expanses of Russia pass by. There are harvested fields as far as the eye can see, and in between some huge barns and farmsteads, the so-called kolkhozes. In the distance, I can see a group of figures marching in a long row. As they come closer, I can see that they are mostly women, loaded down with bundles. Some men are walking along carrying nothing. Hans Weichert gets annoyed with the men for allowing the women to carry the heavy loads while they just walk along beside them. Our wagon chief, the Obergefreiter, explains, "In this part of Russia, that's normal. The payenkas, the girls, and the matkas, the mothers or women, are from childhood taught to do what the pan or man tells them to do. The men are real layabouts. They decide what's to be done. Whenever you see them, they are always walking alongside the women. Indoors, they are usually to be found lying on the clay ovens asleep. Nowadays, you mostly see only old men. All the youngsters have gone off to the war." In the last few days, our Obergefreiter has become more communicative, and in fact, he turns out to be quite a decent chap. It all started when some of the men called him Herr Obergefreiter. He would tear them off a strip, telling them that we were no longer in training. Besides, addressing someone with hair in front only began when he wore braid on his shoulders, starting with sergeants. "Are we supposed to address you with Z?" asks little Grummel. "Don't be daft. Don't use Zi to me. Just call me plain Kumpel. That's the way we do things around here." "Or comrade," a slim, fair-haired fellow interjected. "I don't know him, but he later told me that he was a Kriegsoffizier-Bewerber, for which he would first have to prove his aptitude by serving on the front lines." The Obergefreiter raised his hands in protest. "Heavens, not that! That word is better left for the armchair soldiers in the rear echelons, or those back home rather than us front-line blokes. I am sorry, chum, but the comrades all get killed." He then went on to tell us about his unit. It was a former cavalry division which, in spring 1942, had been designated a tank division. He had been with it since it was reorganized and transferred to Russia, and he took part in the advance on Voronezh in June. The fighting had ended with many dead and wounded. In July and August, he had fought with his unit past Chir and the Don and on into Stalingrad. So it's Stalingrad after all, just as we had thought. However, we're not that near yet. We're only 7 days into the journey, and the only sensation is one of being shaken up and down. October 24th to 25th. Our train is always being overtaken by other ones loaded with weapons and supplies for the front lines. Someone says that we passed Kremenchug railway station last night. This means we are in the middle of the Ukraine, the granary of Russia. The Gefreiter, I now know his name, Fritz Marzog, says that we are being taken over Dnepropetrovsk and Rostov, and from there in a northeasterly direction to Stalingrad. He's right. A day later, during the early hours of the morning, we reach Rostov on the Don estuary by the Sea of Azov. The train stops in a siding near the railway station. There is water nearby so we can freshen up. The weather is nice and warm, but it's still hazy, and we still can't see the sun. We're running around without shirts on, as we're told that we will be here for some time. I am just about to visit some friends in the next wagon when all hell breaks loose. We hear the sound of engines, and dropping suddenly out of the sky, 3 Russian fighter aircraft come for us with machine guns rattling. Even before the command, "Aircraft, take cover," rings out, most of us are already underneath the wagons. I can see sparks flying off the rails and hear the zing of the ricochets. Then everything is over. But immediately someone yells, "They're coming back!" Sure enough, I can see them turning and coming straight back at us. Suddenly all hell is let loose for a second time. The sirens wail and a storm of firing breaks out, so loud that my eardrums almost shatter. There must be several anti-aircraft batteries in the railway complex now laying down crossfire. The 3 aircraft immediately peel off and disappear, unscathed. We all look at each other, a bit stunned. Everything happened so fast, and it is all so different from training days when the instructor yelled, "Aircraft, cover!" This was the real thing, which explains why we'd never taken cover so fast as we did now. Someone says that somebody has been hit. It isn't serious. A graze on the leg, which the medic can sort out. All wagon seniors report to the transport leader for orders. The message is passed down the train. Obergefreiter Marzog returns shortly afterwards with news. He says that 2 open flatbeds will be coupled to our train, each with a twin anti-aircraft gun, to protect the train against enemy air attack. So they reckon there will be further air attacks. In addition, from now on, we have to place 2 men per wagon on guard duty every night, due to the increased chance of an attack by partisans. We may also have to make detours because we have to reckon on rails being blown. The straw underneath us is flattened, and we don't have any fresh, and the blanket which has been thrown over it doesn't help very much. It feels as if we're lying directly on the carriage floor. The tall fellow Warius and several others complain that their hips are hurting. The Obergefreiter smirks and tells us that it's good training. It's worse in the dirty foxholes on the front line. We get him to tell us about the successful campaigns his unit fought in the summer, and this makes us even more impatient to get to our destination as soon as possible so as to not miss out on anything. Dieter Malzahn, the tall, fair-haired Kriegsoffizierbewerber, expresses in words what we're all thinking. Marzog replies somewhat laconically, "Take your time, lad. When you are up at the front, your arse will go from 1 to 100 soon enough." This is old news. We've heard this sort of remark before, usually from men from one of the convalescent units. What they meant was that we, the young squirts, will shit in our pants the first time we get fired upon. Nonsense! When so many others have made it, why shouldn't we? Besides, age has nothing to do with it. Nearly every time the train stops, we hear favorable Wehrmacht radio reports booming out over the loudspeakers from the transport leader's wagon. So it is today, October 25th, a report telling us all about German victories. It makes us feel good, and we start singing battle songs. The countryside has changed since yesterday. We were passing villages every now and then, but today, on both sides of the line, there is nothing but brown-colored steppe with the occasional small hillock. Once in a while you can see large kolkhozes. The driver brings the train to a halt in the middle of this landscape. We climb down from our carriage. The driver has noticed that a section of the railway line had been blown up. We now have to back up along the track for almost 12 hours so as to get on to another line. Progress is now a series of jerks. The engine wheezes like an old walrus as soon as there is the slightest incline. We carry on like this for quite a while until suddenly everyone sits up. There, over a hill in front of us, is a huge dark shadow, like a bird of prey, coming right at us. First we hear a low droning noise, then a crescendo roar like a swarm of bees. Take cover, air attack. We lie flat on the ground, and overhead comes the rattle of aircraft cannon. I can see dirt being thrown up where the shells hit the ground, then our ack-ack begins to spit back. I look up and see small bombs falling from the plane. They explode in front of the train on the engine. Then again the mad buzzing noise, and he is gone. Our anti-aircraft fire didn't manage to get the plane, but there's not much damage. A couple of splinters hitting various parts of the engine and making some holes in the sides of the wagons. Marzog tells us about it. That was the Iron Gustav, a Soviet combat fighter, which Ivan also uses at the front lines. It's a nimble, low-altitude, close support plane which appears from nowhere and sprays everything with its automatic cannon. It often also drops small bombs and sometimes larger ones. Standard ammunition is quite useless against it, as it has an armor-plated belly. After this incident, we carry on, pushing the train uphill and riding it downhill. How long can this go on? But eventually we come to the end. Nothing more can be done. We can't move the train any further even by pushing it. What now? We are stranded somewhere in the Kalmyk steppe with 320 men and a good 40 pounds of personal gear for each one. How far is it to Stalingrad? The transport leader tells us about another 140 or 150 kilometers. Apparently, because of all the detours and delays, we're well behind schedule. We are informed that we will therefore complete the journey on foot. We have to reach our destination in 4 days. We're told that we will spend the night in the wagons and set off in the morning at 600. October 26th, Revel is at 0500 and it is still dark. We get hot coffee and half a loaf of army bread per man and a piece of hard-cured sausage. We noticed yesterday that the rations had been decreased. A few men with injured feet will remain behind with the train and anti-aircraft crews. We load up our kit and on the order, route march, take off with compass and map. Now for real hardship, which will inevitably dent our enthusiasm. We start off singing, but slowly and surely this dies away. The sun gets up and it becomes warmer. At lunchtime, a longer rest is ordered. During the afternoon, the sun really beats down. We still have some reserves, and although we're very tired, we carry on well past nightfall. We just collapse to the ground in a hollow in the steppe, catch our breath, and then unroll our ground sheets and blankets from our kit bags. That night, we sleep like the dead. October 27th. This morning, my legs are as stiff as an old pack horse's, and the rest of the men are feeling no better. I eat a slice of bread and take a sip of my cold coffee. Goodness knows when I'll get something to drink again. Up and at it, the fellows up front start out at quite a rate of knots. The train company does not have that much to carry, but the rest of us are loaded down like pack animals. We carry the full kit with blanket and ground sheet, steel helmet, and heavy winter coat thrown over it. We have a full ammunition pouch on the belt, on our backs the kit bag with the field canteen, and on the other side the folded entrenching tool. A gas mask is slung around our necks, resting on the chest, and the heavy rifle swings back and forth from its strap round the neck. Lastly, a ditty bag is carried in one hand, filled with clean socks, underwear, and similar items. The whole lot weighs about 40 pounds. Time passes. Men regularly fall to the ground exhausted. After a while, having caught their breath, they stand up again and struggle on. Many stragglers look pale and sickly. They are completely exhausted. Suddenly a message comes from the head of the column. Relief. Village up ahead. That means water and something to eat. We summon our last resources and drag ourselves on. Soon we can see the houses. There are only a few, but there are also several barns belonging to a kolkhoz, just like we saw on the wide Russian steppes. There is a well in front of the first hut, with a windlass and a dented bucket. A Feldwebel stands a few feet from the well and waits until the first men get there. Those in front are dashing up to it, wanting to let the bucket down. "Hold it," yells the Feldwebel. The man at the windlass lets go of the bucket, which now crashes down into the well. The Feldwebel suggests that the water may perhaps be poisoned. He goes up to one of the houses, one that has nice wooden carvings on the windows, and goes in the door. Not a soul can be seen. The Feldwebel reappears with a scruffy-looking fellow from the house. He is an old man with a bushy beard and is dressed in the typical quilted jacket. The Feldwebel is dragging him over to the well, holding on to his sleeve with 2 fingers. The bucket is now full of water, up from the well, and reflecting the gleaming sunlight. With a gesture of his hand towards the water, the Feldwebel now demands, "Drink, Rusky!" The old fellow looks at him with a crafty expression, smiles, and refuses several times, while repeatedly saying something like, "Pan karosh, pan karosh." The Feldwebel now becomes impatient. He grabs the old fellow by the neck and shoves his face in the bucket. The old boy chokes and swallows. He looks a bit surprised, but not too concerned. In other words, the water's safe. "Okay, you can drink the water," says the Feldwebel. Bucketful after bucketful is now brought up, and the old fellow starts to grin. He has finally realized what this was all about. We wallow in the water, drinking all we can, and then use some to freshen up. The kolkhoz is a disappointment. We can't find any food anywhere. In one shed are a pile of mangold wurzels and a few ears of corn. Cooper bites a chunk of mangold wurzel but spits it right out again. Meanwhile, a number of women have come out of the houses and are gawking at us. Weikert says the old Russian chap has mentioned something about a garrison headquarters and confiscation. That probably means that some German unit or other has already taken off with anything that's edible. October 28th. We march onwards with empty stomachs. Hour after hour passes. We sweat, we swear. Many of us shout out just to lighten our spirits, but we still have to drag ourselves forward, kilometre after kilometre. Then suddenly the peace of the countryside is broken by a dull, throbbing sound. "Take cover! Air attack!" someone yells. We try to run for cover, just as we have been trained to do, but after a couple of paces we go down on the spot. I scan the sky and on the horizon can pick out some aircraft coming towards us, their tails glinting in the sun. We can tell they're heavily loaded with bombs, ready for the kill. They are coming closer. Then we can make out the cross insignia under their wings and realize that they're German bombers up on a mission, so we stand up and wave to them. They disappear in a northeasterly direction with their deadly cargo. That must be Stalingrad over there. We trudge on. "How far is it now?" asks little Grommel, who has made himself comfortable between me and Marzog. Marzog shrugs his shoulders. "No idea, but I heard we're supposed to get there tomorrow." As if in answer, we hear a heavy, muffled noise in the distance, followed by what sounds like rolling thunder. As it starts to get dark, we can see a red glare in the sky in the far distance. "That's Stalingrad," someone says. "What are those lights?" Warius makes a gesture with his hand. We look towards where he is pointing and see a row of lights in the sky, just like lanterns. Then we hear more muffled explosions, and straight after that we can see long, bright strings of pearls which start from the ground, continue up into the sky, and then disappear. Someone remarks, "That's the runway raider." The old veteran explains that this is a light biplane, which generally operates at night over the runway, letting off flares suspended on little parachutes to illuminate targets. Then the plane drops a number of small bombs or fragmentation bombs. The pilot can turn off his engine and sail noiselessly towards his target like a glider. When the enemy discovers him, it's usually too late. The frontline troops have called him the Nähmaschine, because that's what the engine sounds like. The old soldier goes on. "By the way, those strings of pearls in the sky are tracer rounds from the 20mm twin-barrel and quad anti-aircraft guns, which are trying to shoot him down." It's a great show. More flares appear and more strings of pearls follow in the night sky. It's odd, but we can't hear anything. It's like a silent movie. October 29th. A new morning is breaking and our morale is at 0 level. For an hour now, a fine drizzle has been coming down, and some of our men are quite outspoken about their dislike for it. The rain gets heavier, and now it's windy as well. For the first time, we are experiencing really lousy weather, something we hadn't expected. The gusts become stronger and stronger, and the open countryside offers no protection. The raindrops lash your face like fine needles, drumming against the steel helmets that we've put on to protect us. The wind tears at the ground sheets which we've wrapped around us, and they don't make much difference. They slap against our wet trousers, and the cold wind practically knocks us off our feet. We trudge on. Several hours go by, then we finally spot a village. It has stopped raining. We find some empty barns and sink gratefully to the ground. It's quite busy in the village, with privates and other ranks all over the place. They snap to attention and salute each other. Have we reached the front line or not? There is plenty of evidence here that this area has been taken over by a headquarters and regimental staff. In other words, the organisatorischen Schreibstubengefechtsstände, as Marzog puts it. Our transport leader is supposed to be organizing some rations for us. It works, and we all receive a large helping of barley soup with meat chunks. They live quite well here. After the soup, we feel a lot better. What next? We wait and we wait. Then there is an announcement. There are still 8 or so kilometers to go. New strength is awakened in us. Although our bones ache and the blisters on our feet hurt, we manage to march the rest of the way in about an hour and a half. Quite an achievement considering the weight of our kit. Rumor has it that we will be picked up by vehicles from this point. However, they're not yet here, so again we have to wait. They arrive at dusk. We drive into the darkness. Then over a long bridge with lots of other vehicles. The River Don, someone behind me remarks. Then we continue on the main supply route, more commonly referred to as the runway. We drive without lights because of the runway raider. We can see his flares close up now and can quite clearly hear the bangs as his bombs go off. After a few hours, we stop somewhere amongst some cottages. We are quartered in them for the night. In the distance, we hear the rolling thunder, and the sky is glowing red. That's Stalingrad, all right. How is our enthusiasm compared to how we felt last week? It's definitely suffered because of the forced march we've just had to make, and we reckon that enthusiasm and euphoria are in short supply here. The reality is rather different. It's not something that gives you a good feeling at all. Well, we've reached the first stage towards our destination, and we'll now have to see how things work out. For the moment, though, I'm off to sleep to forget everything. This concludes the first part of the story. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe for more episodes and leave a comment.